Hey there, greetings. I am Marina Orms here talking with you about the astrology of unshakable self-care. And this is your Astro vibe for Sunday, September 4th. And our topic for today is looking at the upcoming Mercury retrograde. And we're going to be talking about the theme of renegotiating the terms of your happiness and how that symbolism shows up with Mercury retrograde in Libra. So Mercury is going retrograde on September 9th, toward the end of the day, but all day we have that stationing experience where Mercury is slowing down to change direction. So it sort of hovers in a point, and it enhances the energy of Mercury. And so Mercury is the planet of communication. It is the planet that has to do with how we think, how we process information, how we generate ideas and convey them, transmit ideas, communicate, and how we go from one place to another, because Mercury is the messenger. So we've got that energy of communication, mental processes, thinking, ideas, and it's in the sign of Libra. Libra, of course, being about balance, about peace, and being the peacemaker. Libra is also about happiness because it shows what is going to make us feel good and what is that place of balance where we have that happiness. So Mercury, when it goes retrograde, it's one of those things in astrology that it shows up in the popular consciousness, right? Mercury retrograde, everybody's heard of it. Maybe not everybody knows what it means, but we know it's a thing, or that it's a thing that we either believe in or want to deny. So of course, all of astrology is going on all the time. And this is just one piece, but it's one that seems like people can connect with for one reason or another. And Mercury has that energy of how we process information and ideas, how we share information. Libra, of course, also is the sign of fairness and of justice. So look for themes in the news about justice, about all the various legal processes that are going on right now that have to do with justice, and how some of that is unfolding in the political narrative in the United States, and themes of justice. So as Mercury goes retrograde in that sign of justice, what does it do? It takes us back over old territory. It takes us back where we've been. And that's what Mercury is actually doing in the sky, is it is slowing down in its progress through the zodiac to go backwards for a little while through the zodiac, because of course the earth is also moving, and so the relative experience of how quickly the earth is moving, how fast Mercury is moving, and how all those paths line up make it appear to us as though Mercury is going backwards, from our perspective here on earth, of course. And as Mercury does that, it goes back through the degrees of the zodiac where it has already been. So it's going to go back over some of the degrees of Libra, and then it will on September 23rd go back into Virgo. And so it's going backwards from Libra into Virgo, spend a little time in Virgo. It will then station direct on October 2nd, and then move forward again through Virgo and back into Libra, and then make its progress through Libra and into Scorpio. So as we think about Mercury retrograde, we want to think about words that have the re prefix. So it's a good time for review, reliving, remembering, reframing, but also it's a good time to regenerate, renegotiate. And especially when we're talking about Libra, we're talking about balance, we're talking about agreements. And so, what is something you've negotiated or agreed to that maybe it's time to rethink, redo, replan, rehash, go over again because maybe you've learned something, maybe you've changed, maybe you have a new perspective now, or a different way of a different set of needs, a different way of looking at things. So as we go through that process, Libra is seeking balance. And as you grow and change and learn new things about yourself and step more fully into shining your light and some of the things we've been talking about with recent moon cycles, being authentic, more truth, living according to your truth. And so as you do that, you change. And where that place of balance in your life may be changing as well. Maybe some of the things that you've been doing don't make sense anymore. You need to renegotiate. Libra, of course, is about relationships and partnerships and the ways that we work together with others. So renegotiating the terms of how you work together with others, looking at what is truly fair, what is balance, what is going to work. And when you think about perhaps what has worked for you in the past, maybe you have agreed to something that wasn't ultimately in your best interest, or maybe wasn't in the best interest for you according to what you knew at the time. I mean, it was in the best interest for you according to what you knew at the time, but now that you've changed and learned more about yourself, maybe there's something new and different about how you are entering into your partnerships and negotiating some of those terms. So one of the things that we can have show up with Libra energy, of course, is that tendency to want peace, to want everybody to be happy. So the people-pleasing aspect of Libra, that tendency to be nice, right? And being nice sometimes can mean that people might take advantage of you if you're being too nice, right? So there's that balance of wanting to be nice and be liked, but not be a doormat. And those are the themes, the soul lessons of Libra energy, is learning how to go from self-compromise to silencing yourself or making yourself less valuable, to go from that place to a place of true balance, which has to do with, your importance and being nice and listening to other people, but not at the expense of what it is you have to offer, your perspective. Bringing some of those voices that have traditionally been demeaned or belittled or silenced to the table. And that can be voices in society that have been oppressed. It can also be voices within yourself that have, you've told yourself that it's not safe, or whatever the argument is you might have inside of yourself about how to about those different parts of yourself that feel too vulnerable, that feel too raw, right? Sometimes when we're getting closer to the truth, to a deeper place of honesty, it just doesn't feel safe to bring that voice or that part of yourself to share and express and be part of the table. So balance can mean bringing more of your honest, authentic truth to the table and sharing that as well in your here and now, day-to-day relationships. What does it mean to speak up for yourself? What does it mean to say things that you've been afraid to say? And so as we look at this Mercury retrograde, one of the big things that we're going to be doing is renegotiating the terms of happiness, of your happiness. And what does that look like to bring a renegotiation, right? To look at, where are the places I've compromised in the past? What do I need to have support for bringing more of my whole self to the table? How do I need to be valued? How do I need to speak up for myself and demand that my needs are important, that my perspective is valued and given a bigger place of meaning in the whole that we are creating through this partnership. So renegotiating the terms of the balance that is the source of our happiness. And so if you have had happiness in the past that was based on perhaps giving up part of yourself, demeaning or belittling yourself, or again, just having some of that sense of your truth not being shared, and then renegotiating that so that your needs can be held and valued. And then with the Mercury retrograde, looking to, we're also in that place of review. So recalling, remembering, going over the past, maybe rehashing some things where we say, that didn't go the way I wanted it to go. Maybe it's a conversation, maybe it's an argument, maybe it's a disagreement, maybe it is something that you wanted, that you said at the time, okay, I'll make my needs less important. It's renegotiating that. And often when we are in that place of belittling or demeaning ourselves, no matter how subtle or unconscious, right? We might be agreeing, right? Making agreements, which is very Libra, through our actions, our behaviors, our ways of being, our beliefs, our ways of treating ourselves. And so without even realizing it, we're making an agreement. We're saying, yeah, it's okay to treat me that way because I'll just go along with it. I won't object. I won't interject. I won't say anything or ruffle any feathers or ripple any waters that might upset the peace or cause unpredictable effects. Like Libra just wants everything to be peaceful and calm and smooth and easy, but at the expense sometimes of maybe not being treated the way you should be treated, and maybe making agreements to things that aren't in your best interest. So taking a look during this Mercury retrograde at some of the ways that you have achieved peace in the past, maybe some of the compromises you've made, and looking at how to renegotiate that to change those terms of how you show up in relationship, how you work with another person, how you communicate, what you are saying, all of those things. And then as Mercury continues going retrograde, it goes into Virgo. It's going to go deeper into the review and deeper into that place of the details, because Virgo, of course, is about cleaning and maintenance and putting things in place, and the behind the scenes efforts that we put into things when we roll up our sleeves and get to work. But Virgo has to do with details. So we're going to get into the nitty gritty. And a little bit more of picking things apart and saying, okay, how did we get here? What do we do about it? Where did that go wrong? What are we going to do about that? And so again, this can happen in the collective, and we might see some of that going on in these ongoing processes of the judicial process and some of the political process, and the way that is evolving in the news headlines and the collective awareness. As we go back, we review what's happened, we take it apart, we look at where this choice was made, where that choice was made, why they were made. Maybe we're going to renegotiate that. Maybe we're going to get clear about the terms of what we agreed to here. And then of course, on October 2nd, Mercury goes direct. We continue working through those details. After Mercury goes direct in Virgo, we'll have a little more of things moving forward. So things getting sorted out, some of that nitty gritty, getting, the agreements being made and put in place. And then on October 10th, Libra now direct goes, or Mercury now direct goes into Libra again. And then we're back to that energy of negotiating our relationships, negotiating what peace is going to look like, and our own happiness within that. So that's what we've got going on for this Mercury retrograde that's coming up. When Mercury is retrograde in general, of course, we're doing all the rewords. And one of my favorite words actually is reify. And if you don't know what that means, it's just to create, right? To make something into a thing. And remember is another awesome word, because when you take remember apart, it's like it means to put it together. Member means to make into a thing. And so a lot of rewords actually have to do with creating, putting things into form, making them tangible, reforming. And so there's lots of opportunity here to create and to recreate and to create on terms that we've had a chance to work through, to think through, to try out and decide what we like, what we don't like, what we want to change, update, do better at, how to create things with more integrity, with more power, with more meaning, and more effectiveness. So that is what Mercury in general does when it's retrograde, is it helps us go back over territory where we've been in our thinking and update our thinking, clarify our thinking, redo our thinking to formulate ideas that are more powerful and effective and clear and clean and going forward. So this Mercury retrograde will be doing that as well. Of course, when Mercury goes retrograde, all of our communications and technologies and ways that messages get conveyed can get muddled, because we're going backward instead of forward. And so the energy of, communication can get lost in translation. Sometimes our computer systems, our data systems, right, can not work as effectively because we're being asked to redo. And so what happens when your computer crashes? Sometimes you have to restructure. Sometimes you have to recreate. Sometimes you have to rethink the way things are set up, or reconstruct something you've written before that got lost. And as annoying and frustrating as that is, sometimes it really does help us think about things differently and recreate something better, right? Based on who we have become and what we have learned, and how we've changed. So that's the function of that Mercury retrograde energy. As it starts to go forward, it reviews that territory that we've gone backward through now, and it's like a forward and back and forward again. We get over those degrees that Mercury goes retrograde over. We get a lot of chance to get it right. And as impatient and frustrating as we can be and feel sometimes, that is an opportunity to do things and to learn things that we wouldn't be able to discover in any other way. So the power of Mercury retrograde, one way to strategy to have, coping mechanism to have as we go through it, of course, take the advice to back up your systems, can save you time. Also double check communications, double check that your reservations or anything you've communicated to another person, make sure they heard it. Make sure they heard what you said. Just double check and say, I just want to check and have you repeat that back to me. There's another word, repeat. Repeat that back to me just so I can make sure you got it all. And then double check. And so that is a good coping mechanism. But just remember that this time is about learning things and having this opportunity to renegotiate, recreate, regenerate, and create things according to who we have become. And so again, negotiating in relationship, negotiating your own self-worth, your own value, and of course, your happiness. What is it that makes you happy? Why not have the things that you deserve, and that affirms your value and the importance of your needs? And it always begins with how you value and think about yourself, because others will pick up on and mirror that back to you. So if you are showing a willingness to step into embodying a greater self-esteem, greater self-worth, the importance of having your needs met, then others will respond and mirror your choices and reflect back to you that you have that self-worth, and that of course you deserve to have your needs met. So that is the Mercury retrograde, and we are, as of today, the moon is in Sagittarius, and we also do have some other planets retrograde. Of course, outer planets, many of the planets, sun and moon accepted, but all the rest of the planets can and do go retrograde. And right now we have outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter, all retrograde. So all 5 outer planets also in this place of review, reflection, redoing, regenerating, and asking ourselves what is important. So really, these retrograde phases take us inward. They take us into a place of renegotiating our sense of self, of identity, of who we are, of where we belong in the world, and in the bigger picture of life and the universe and everything. And so we're in a time of going back over, going inward, and creating things according to what we see, what we find when we go back and look deeper into what we want and what's possible. So there is your little summary of Mercury retrograde, and let me know what you think. We've got coming up this week, of course, the moon is waxing. It is moving now past the first quarter, so we're in the second quarter of the moon cycle, going from the first quarter, or when the moon is half full, to when it is full. So we're heading into that full moon, and we've got Sagittarius moon will be going into Capricorn, which takes us into themes of structure, of systems, of getting organized, finding our backbone, and then the moon will go into Aquarius, where we get to the places of higher level thinking, of insight, inspiration, and breakthroughs. Also possible with Aquarius energy is sudden changes, sudden revelations, the ground shifting like an earthquake. So we're also creating that potential for change. And what we want to do, and of course, when the moon is in Aquarius, is we want to open to change in the direction of the things we want. So ride that wave, set your intentions, work with this energy to unleash the real breakthroughs, the insights, the inspirations, and the epiphanies that will get you going in the direction of what you want. We are, of course, in the Virgo moon cycle, and with this Virgo energy throughout the moon cycle until the next new moon, which will be at the end of September, we've got this theme of working through the details, looking at our truth, and how to use our daily lives to make the magic that we're capable of. And I did go in depth into that in last week's video on Sunday. So go check that out, Making Magic with the Virgo new moon. And I was talking about the magic of taking a broom and sweeping, and why witches are associated with brooms. So that was really fun and cool. Check that out if you missed it. And we will continue here up until the Pisces full moon, which will bring us a revelation of some sort related to the intentions we've been working with for this moon cycle. So intentions to get back to basics, intentions to have a willingness to open to what it is that needs to be improved upon. What is the work that we have to do? What can we do to work on ourselves? And there's humility, not humiliation. So as we look at, a bigger picture, a bigger process, that our humility we can be of service to this bigger ideal, this bigger vision, rather than overwhelmed by the critical voice that we might have that says you're not good enough. So overcoming the feeling of not being good enough, stepping into your power, your passion, your potential, and your truth, bit by bit, step by step. What does that look like in your routines and in your day-to-day life? So we'll take this Virgo moon cycle energy as Mercury goes retrograde. We'll be looking at how to renegotiate. And of course, Mercury retrograde will spend some time in Virgo, so we'll have that extra attention to detail that Virgo can bring. All right. That's it for today. Thank you so much for being here. And I am here every day. Check me out for the daily Astro vibe for unshakable self-care. And as we're talking about today, for creating happiness and supporting yourself in making agreements in your life that do support your happiness. So renegotiate those agreements. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for subscribing to my YouTube channel, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.